This is a podcast by the Straits Times.
Taylor Swift shows up at the football game.
With his mom.
With his mom.
Wearing the jersey.
With his mother. That is pro. Hello and welcome to PopVultures, a pop culture podcast by the Straits Times. My name is Jen Lee, and today I'm joined by my special guest. So today I have two friends here with me. One is Charmaine from our live desk. She does books. Hi, say hi, Charmaine.
Hi.
Yes, and then one is Yamini, who does drinks and nightlife, and I get a lot of cocktails out of her.
Hi.
Yes. Okay, so today we are all here, right? Because we are all Swifties, which means we all love Taylor Swift with passion. My passion, unfortunately, did not translate to getting Taylor Swift tickets successfully for next year, but both Charmaine and Yamini, they are going together and they got the $1,400 tickets, okay? Y'all did, like, come on.
Yes, you may or may not recognize me from the video that went up on Instagram and TikTok of me.
Yes.
Where my favorite comments on both were, sounds like angmo.
Yeah, I was in the background of that video getting the tickets.
Yes. I remember there was a whole strategy and yeah, I failed, but they won. So they got the tickets and I didn't. But okay, so today we are talking about Taylor Swift, but we're not just talking about Taylor Swift like generally, right? Because there's like so much to cover with Taylor. But I think today we are going to talk about firstly what's the hot news with Taylor, which is her new relationship with Kansas City Chiefs Travis Kelce. And we're going to talk about like the way Taylor really uses the media to her advantage. And I've got two, very passionate Swifties here with me. So, okay, let's just start with like, our relationship to Taylor. Okay, Charmaine, tell me a little bit about how you got into Taylor, like how you got into her music, like just how did this all happen, your relationship to Swift?
I think the first time I got introduced to her music was like, I was just browsing on YouTube and the music video for You Belong With Me came up. And so that was my introduction to it. And then did not realize she was in the Hannah Montana movie until way later. And then after that
her mildly misogynistic era, You Belong With Me.
Yeah, it was. But then I was listening to her music on and off, but that was the era when it was not cool to be a Swiftie and everyone hated you for it.
Yes.
So I was very much a closet Swiftie. But I really got into her music a little after Speak Now came out. And then by the time Red came out, I was like a full-blown secret Swiftie. And my parents would be like, why are you hiding in your room listening to this music? And I was like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Me at age 14, 15.
It was very loaded to like Taylor at a certain time. All right, Yamini, tell me a little bit.
Yeah, so it was about 2008, I want to say. I was living in the UK. I was studying there. Love Story sort of blew up. Yeah, and I was just like, oh, this is such a sweet song. But again, it was not cool to like Taylor. And also my group at that time, the people around me, my peers, millennials, were all listening to like indie, sort of the cool emo boys and things like that. So like,
who are the cool emo boys, may I ask?
The Killers at that time. Yeah,
Okay.
so that it was kind of that era. I would say 1989 was where I was like, oh, I'm interested in what she's doing. And because that was her big pop foray, really, and she went on Ellen and was talking about how she had fans over her house, and me and my mom were watching it, and then Ellen would keep scaring Taylor, and we'd be like, is this so funny?
Like
and she's,
Ellen.
yeah.
Okay, but yeah.
Ellen did not age well. Ellen did not
age well.
Yeah, you see, that's why when our colleague Amanda said our song was the first song she heard, I was like, what? What? In Singapore, I guess people were into her then, but no, for me, I would say 1989, and like, I would say it's only in the last few years where I was like, I guess I'm a Swiftie because I really like all of her songs. And I have weirdly grown up with Taylor because I'm only like 2 years older than her. So it's like she's pretty much putting out the soundtrack to my life.
Oh, wow.
As I'm going through it. Yeah, so
That's
like,
really...
yeah, and I think like she is an interesting person because, to be honest, like back in the 1989 era, she was very white girly, and that irritated me a bit because I was like, I don't think she'd ever be friends with me because her friends are tall white supermodels.
Blonde people, yeah.
Yeah, so like I do feel like she needs to grow up, and I think actually her best music has come out since, like Reputation. I mean, you listen to the album, initially you think like, oh, it's just her being like Attitude, but it's actually a very romantic, sensitive, thoughtful album of like her, rising up and deciding whatever, I'm going to live my life.
Okay, so I think we have to put a pin in that because I think we'll return to that later, but that is very interesting. personally, I am a very, very, very late convert. I mean, I guess now I would call myself a Swiftie, but like, I'm not that familiar with all of her songs. I just remember her growing up because Teardrops on My Guitar was like the first song I heard from her. And I remember there was a girl in my school who was like super into it and we were friends. And she would like sing it like doing breaks or something. I can't remember, okay? But it was, like we would listen to it. So I remember that. And then like, as you said, like it wasn't cool to like Taylor for a very long time. So I always kind of side-eye her. I was never really into English music. But then like, some of the stuff is just super catchy. Like I remember dancing at a gay club in Tokyo to Shake It Off. And it was just like so fun. And I just remember thinking, this is really fun. Like, to indulge in the fun aspect of it, like to not judge her or whatever that people associate with her and just enjoy the music. That was really fun. And of course, Folklore came out and that was like a major moment. And then All Too Well, 10-minute version came out. I was like, oh my God, this is my life. I mean, everybody has had a bad relationship. So you know what I mean. Yeah, okay, so let's just get into our main discussion topic of the day. Now that we all know our relationship with Taylor, the way we're weirdly attached to her and have formed a weird parasocial relationship with her. Because, like, honestly, she encourages it, right? Like, through her music, through the way, like, her public appearances, like, through the fact that she used to, like, invite fans over
her secret
for, like,
sessions.
Yeah, for, like, really intimate sessions of, like, singing and everything. She really does encourage this. So it's not our fault right now that, Taylor, we are super invested in you, and I think you want us to be invested in you. So let's talk about your newest boyfriend, Travis Kelce. Okay, first, do we like Travis Kelce? What are the vibes we're getting from him? Do you feel that this relationship is a PR stunt? Go, Charmaine.
I was not a big fan of it when it was announced because it was so on the tails of the Maddie Healy thing that I was like, this is 100% a PR relationship. And I think there is an element of it that still remains, but the longer this has gone on, the more I see how much he genuinely likes her. And I think it's good for her to be in like a casual relationship after she was with Joe for 5 years?
Like a long time, yeah.
A really long time. And then the first person she dates out of that is a really awful, terrible human being. And so like you kind of
Who looks bad. Like he's not attractive.
I keep saying he looks like a drowned sewer rat and I'm not wrong.
Okay. That's very intense. We don't encourage like image shaming here, but I don't feel bad about Matty Healy, like honestly. But okay. So vibes-wise from Travis Kelce, you're getting good boy vibes?
Yeah, he reminds me of like a really eager puppy.
Okay. Personally, I think it's kind of fascinating that she's finally dating an American. And the most American stereotype, he's a football player.
It has been a long time. This is the only athlete she's dated.
Yeah, so this is quite interesting. Yamini, what are your thoughts on the Kels?
My initial reaction was just like, oh, I guess she's just going with the flow because he was obviously very into her, making that public declaration that he tried to give her a friendship bracelet with his phone number on it, which I thought was a very cute idea, actually.
Yeah, just like context, a while before this whole relationship came out, he did say that he went to the Eras tour, and he did say that he really likes Taylor and tried to give her like a friendship bracelet. Like if you go to Taylor concerts, like friendship bracelets is a thing. So he tried to give her one with his number on it, and it didn't get to her or something. And he like publicly said like, "Oh,"
on his podcast,
yeah,
he was like,
I'm really disappointed that it didn't come, like it didn't happen lah, like something along those lines. So that's the context. But continue, Yamini.
Yeah, so I thought that was a very sweet gesture, and I guess she was really bowled over by it because I've heard her say in the past that no one's ever pursued her or made grand gestures. There's a talk show excerpt of her saying this. So I think she's just going with the flow and kind of enjoying being courted. How into him she is, I don't know. And I think we will only really see with time. It could end up being like Tom Hiddleston and Taylor Swift, where she got caught up in the whole like romance and, the whirlwind aspect of it, and she might just hop into a getaway car this time again and run away.
That's a pun right there. Okay, so I do think it's interesting you mentioned Tom Hiddleston because that's the vibe that I'm slightly getting. It's like a slightly downplayed version of Tom Hiddleston because Tom Hiddleston and Taylor were like very high profile to the point that I was very turned off by Tom Hiddleston. Like he wore that whole I Love TS singlet at the beach, and I was like, bro, if you're trying to go for James Bond would never wear I Love TS singlet at the beach. Like, okay, but so obviously he didn't get James Bond. But I feel like the vibes I was getting from that relationship was, yes, they were both kind of playing it up for the PR, but also I think in that moment they genuinely kind of enjoy each other. So that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from Travis Kelce, but a little more downplayed because obviously like Taylor has evolved to become better at the PR game. So it's not so like over the top and it's not so like in your face, but I mean, it's still pretty in your face, but
Yeah.
it's just different. I'm getting like slightly those vibes.
They aren't posting on social media the way they were in 2016. I think Taylor's social media strategy has really
changed.
Really
Changed.
changed.
Yeah. I mean, okay, that's one of the things that I want to talk about is like the masterful rollout of this Travis Kelce relationship. Because there were talks, right? You know, firstly, it was like Travis Kelce talking on his podcast about like the whole friendship bracelet thing. And I think I understand what Yamini was saying about how Taylor feels like she has never been wooed before. Because I think when you are as famous as Taylor Swift, it's very intimidating to woo you. It's very intimidating for a guy to go up to you and be like, hey, what's up? You know, like you can't just slide into a DMs. Like it's a bit much, right? So anyway, I think like Travis Kelce was talking about this kind of publicly. And then there was some talks. Like I saw some tabloidy stuff about like, is this kind of happening? Is this not? And then for a long time, it was like sort of speculation. And then bam,
Football
Taylor
game.
Swift shows up at the football game.
With his mom.
With his mom.
Wearing the jersey.
With his mother. Come, that is pro. Your mom leh. Oh my God, can you imagine? Just be like, I'm 33. I am not wasting any time. I am meeting your mother. Like,
I do need to add that her first appearance with Tom Hiddleston in The Sun, they were taking a beachside walk with Tom Hiddleston's mom.
That's also why.
she's so good with mom.
She is. But like, she's
That's a southern girl.
Yeah, she
through and
is.
through.
It
Like,
is. Okay, I like how it's really funny because she pictures herself as such a southern girl. She grew up in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is actually not that far south because I went to school there.
okay.
It's more, a bit more north.
It's a bit
central.
more north because it's like right under New York.
But I like, is her family southern?
They moved to Tennessee because she wanted to pursue a music career and she
country
calls
music.
Tennessee her home state, but it's
Okay,
not
okay.
actually her home state. And like she mentions that in 7 too, where she talks about being Pennsylvania being under her. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so just the way she wrote it out, like at this point, she doesn't need the tabloid. She doesn't need like social media. She knows that there are cameras everywhere she goes. So she would just show up at a game. She's not gonna tell you, hey, so yeah, I'm kind of dating. She's not gonna leak a source to people like Justin Timberlake. But okay, now my dad's another podcast for another day. I'm so mad at Justin Timberlake. Every single day I wake up and I am raging at Justin Timberlake. But anyway, so like she doesn't need to like leak a source, be like, Taylor's someone close to Taylor. No, she just shows up. It's such a confident move. You know, that's what I really love about it. And the way like she will just make sure you are seeing me wearing his jersey with his mom. There's no doubt that I am into this guy, that we are kind of a thing. Like it's so... and the impeccable timing of it all happening. Like, just the whole Sophie Turner thing. Can we put a pin in Travis Kelce and talk about Sophie Turner?
Absolutely.
Because we did not know that she was friends with Sophie Turner.
I don't think she was until now.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, there was beef between them at some point, right? Because there was like 2 different friend groups. And there was some kind of beef with them.
Oh, I didn't hear about the beef. I think Sophie Turner's always been a fan of Taylor Swift and even like kind of shouted out Taylor last year, you know, saying like, hey, like she just kind of said she was a fan. But I think Taylor kind of was like, oh, I see Sophie's in trouble. I'm going to help her out.
Like, because, okay, context, again, like in case you were under a rock, you know, this whole 2 months. But Sophie Turner used to be with Joe Jonas. Joe Jonas used to be a Taylor Swift ex. Taylor Swift wrote plenty of songs about Joe Jonas that were not particularly flattering.
Mr. Perfectly Fine.
Yes, about how he broke up with her over like
Better Than Revenge.
like broke up with her over a very brief phone call or something like that. And it was not a relationship that ended well. Joe Jonas later on married Sophie Turner, had 2 children. And then now they're getting divorced. And apparently Joe Jonas' team put out a bunch of stories about how Sophie Turner is a bad mom, to try and like sway public opinion. And then like the public jumped on that and was like, we see what you're doing, Joe, and we despise it. And everyone was like on the side of Sophie Turner, who is Queen in the North, right? So everybody's like, oh my God, our Queen in the North. And then suddenly Taylor, after like years of never ever interacting with Sophie Turner, shows up.
And they go to dinner together.
And there's a picture of them together at dinner, multiple pictures of them.
And they're so happy.
And they look so happy. And I think Sophie Turner went to the Travis Kelce game, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
one of the
the
games.
second one, yeah. The one with Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively.
Yeah, that one. So like she's like in the friend group. It's like Taylor Swift saw that, okay, you're beefing with my ex. I'm going to adopt you. And it feels like she saw the zeitgeist and she reached out. Like, to me, it's very clear that this was in part a PR thing. I think for both of them, for both Sophie and Taylor. But what's your take on it?
I mean, Sophie was very openly a fan of Mr. Perfectly Fine, which I think is such a funny thing.
It's hilarious.
Because it is entirely about Joe.
About how he sucks.
Yeah. And so the fact that she was very publicly a fan of it says so much. And now that you put you connect the dots, you're like, oh, that's probably why she was a fan of it. Because there's also a lot of talk about what kind of person Joe is. And
Even in his relationship with Sophie, right? Yeah.
And she's not the only woman that he's wronged. Like, every one of his exes, it's weird because he dumped Taylor for the model, whose name I don't remember.
Actress Camilla Bell.
Okay.
Oh, was she an actress? I only remember her as a model.
A forgettable actress who I mean, I'm sorry to say, has not been in many recognizable films or television.
Okay.
And then, every person that he's dated, it's kind of ended really badly. So,
yeah.
it just, I don't know. It's fitting, and I think it says a lot that these two, absolutely powerhouses of women. Because if you've seen how Sophie Turner has roasted Joe Jonas, it's so funny.
Yeah.
But, there is a lot of truth behind it, and you can tell.
Yeah. And she's so inherently cool, I think.
Oh, she is. She's so cool.
Yeah, I think they were showbiz friends, maybe. There was a rumor sometime back that Taylor might be appearing in one of the X-Men films as a character called Dazzler, who in the comics is a pop star mutant. So I think Taylor sort of became friendly with Sophie from that. I think they made an appearance on Graham Norton together. On Folklore, there's a song where Taylor talks about sending her ex's babies presents, and the only ex who had a baby at that point seemed to be Joe.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, showbiz friends.
Sort of acquaintances, but I think maybe they were playing down the relationship because they knew how it might be seen to the public.
I mean, I just don't know when they may have had time to hang out as well because they're busy people. But then now, Sophie's in New York because of this whole divorce battle.
Yeah.
Taylor does base herself in New York. She's got her song where she talks about going out on the revenge spree. So it's just an opportunity for her to make a friend, but also have a bit of revenge.
I love how the timing was almost together, the Travis Kelce and the Sophie Turner one. It was like the Sophie Turner one, it gained Taylor a lot of goodwill, I have to say. And then immediately she rolled out the Travis Kelce one along with it. And then she brought Sophie to the Travis Kelce game. It's just everything that she's doing is obviously, it's transparently PR, but it's all good PR for her. And it's very hard for you to not be impressed with the level of how she knows what people are gonna write. She knows people are gonna go crazy on TikTok and Twitter, which they did when they saw her with Sophie, when they saw her with Travis Kelce's mom. It's so smart. And the whole recently also Beyonce at Eras premiere, Beyonce is also a masterful celebrity, but Beyonce keeps her things a lot more tightly locked down compared to Taylor. I think Taylor is willing to put more stuff out there. Compared to Beyonce, Beyonce really locks her stuff down. And there's a lot of beef, right, between the Swifties and the Bayhive. And then I think they really shut that down with Beyonce showing up at US premiere. And that was so smart and so it's such a power move. I don't need to tell you more. I don't need to explain how we got friendly. She's here, she's supporting me. And this beef is we don't endorse it, right? I really enjoyed that. But let's go back to some of the boyfriend stuff because comparing this whole Travis Kelce relationship reveal, what about some of the other relationship reviews that she's done? How do you think this compares with Travis Kelce? How has her strategy kind of changed in the years?
I think this is probably her most thought out strategy, and it had to be because of Maddie Healy.
Okay.
Because her other relationships,
Maddie Healy was a stumble.
It was.
It was a stumble.
I don't want to think that us as Swifties bullied her out of that relationship, but I think we kind of did for good reason because he's
a racist. There's
he's
some
misogynistic.
Yeah, there's some stuff about Maddie Healy. Maddie Healy is the guy who what is the band called?
1975.
Yes, 1975. The 1975. And they were the ones who got that KL Music Festival shut down.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not great. He's very self-absorbed and there's a lot of stuff about him saying and doing very unsavory things in the past. And then Taylor was seen with him very briefly. He was at one of the US concerts.
Yeah.
And then they were behaving intimately. And then fans went insane. Fans were no, do not date Maddie Healy. And then she just ended extremely quickly. And okay, this is one of the things I wanted to ask. Do you think she calibrates her personal life according to public opinion? Kind of.
I think if you're a celebrity, there is always some level of that you have to do because there's so much, like the public eye is always judging you, right? So I do think that one of the reasons she ended things with Matty Healy was because of the immense backlash. Like people were basically only saying bad things about it. Either people were saying like you shouldn't date him because he's a bad person, or people were saying that the only reason they got together is because she's secretly also a terrible person and their values align and that's why she's with him and like, you know, that makes up their relationship. And so I think because of that, she really had to take a step back and be like, while she can do whatever she wants to do, it's not wise. And she, more than most celebrities, understands that.
I mean, I think she sort of had to look at the two scales and be like, is the furor of this guy worth the effort of it? And I think she just wasn't that into him to be like, yes, I am going to stick with this person.
I think it was a rebound. Like, I don't think she was fully into him.
Yeah, I think for her, it's like, look, he's just a rebound. I don't want to deal with all this. Like I don't like him that much anyway. So like,
it's
that's
fine.
why it was so easy for her to just be like, okay, let's just move on.
Yeah, and she really moved on fast.
Yeah, but also like you think about it, he's not the kind of person who would be okay in a relationship with her. Because she is significantly more famous than him, more powerful. He has a thing against women, and that wouldn't have worked out in the long run.
Okay, so going back to like, as you were saying, because of Matty Healy, you feel like this particular relationship rollout was a lot more deliberate?
Yeah, because if you look at her other relationship rollouts, like the only one where she's put a lot of thought into it is Tom Hiddleston, because that was very clearly like...
It was very PR stunty,
it was
I have to
PR
say.
stunty.
Yeah.
And so... You look at that,
and that was before she got so famous that she didn't need the PR stunts. I think she was already very famous.
She was up there.
I think that was her peak, I would say, because that's pretty much right before the Kanye and Kim stuff went down.
Yes, but I think that like in 2016, she was not at the level that she is now, right? Yeah. So
no, but that was her like crossover. That was when people say she officially crossed over with 1989 into the pop genre.
Okay.
And like, you know, it was a big deal that all of a sudden she was dating this guy who was getting really popular because of Marvel as well.
Also crossing into the mainstream,
And so there was just like this huge thing about, oh, like they're together. But then you look at her other relationships and none of them have been super like, look at me, I'm dating this person. It's always been like, oh, they were photographed together. Like her and Harry Styles, her and
Joe.
Her and Joe, like even he who shall not be named, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
That guy.
We would go back to Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes, we will. Yes. But like none of her other relationships have been super like overtly, I guess, in the public eye in the way like where you can
like plan out.
Yeah,
right?
where you can see the steps of like this is the first thing she did, this is the next thing she did. Everything else has been kind of just like, oh yeah, they're seeing each other casually or seriously, and then fans kind of took over from there.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about the things that she lets us know versus the things that she doesn't let us know? Because it's so calculated. At this point in her career, it's so calculated. Like the things that she's going to let you find out about her and her life and the things that we absolutely don't know. We still don't know why exactly she and Joe broke up. Like there's no good like answer to that. And we don't know that much about Joe. Like, throughout her entire extremely long relationship with Joe, we knew very little about him. And I think that was clearly very deliberate on her and Joe's part. Like, probably was an agreement. But yeah, we just don't know that much about this guy. And versus, like, Travis Kelce, immediately we're knowing a lot of things about him, right? I mean, that's partially because Travis Kelce has his own podcast. But, you know, you get what I mean? Like, yeah, so, like, what are your takes? Yamini, why don't you go first?
I mean, Joe was a very private person, and I think that was regardless of dating Taylor. So I think, like, us not knowing anything about him is really his decision. I think she was okay with it at that time because she also wanted to just, like, hide from the world. And then the pandemic happened. And then I guess she started realizing, well, I don't really want to do this on the long term. I want to be able to go to the Oscars with you. I want you to come to the Grammys with me. You know, we don't have to, like, be putting ourselves on social media all the time, but I want to do things for you, I think. And I think she's just like, this is not going to work in the long term. So like Travis, on the other hand, I think he's become very used to the spotlight because his brother is also a football player. He's very successful in the football world. So
Which means he is already in the spotlight.
exactly, he's with the winning team in the
They
NFL
won the
right
Super
now.
Bowl this year.
Exactly. In fact, I think his team may have been against his brother's team, possibly. So there was a lot of jokes about his mother having to decide. But he's not going to be threatened by Taylor because they're in completely different worlds, so to speak. So I just
You can't measure their success by show business stuff.
yeah. So I do think, and it's interesting that you say we don't know much about Joe because I'm kind of waiting to see her next album. I want to see if we learn anything from that. But the funny thing is, if you look back on 6 albums of songs, we don't actually know that much about Joe. We know so much about their relationship, but we don't know that much about Joe. We know maybe they like to go to Shoreditch and Brixton and London Boy or whatever, but
We know that maybe Joe tells her dirty jokes.
yes, exactly.
But what dirty jokes exactly, Taylor? What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm curious to see if we learn anything about Joe. But I was joking earlier, Joe could very well end up marrying a non-famous girl and having 3 kids together, and we would never find out except maybe until they die, literally.
He is so private because he's actually an actor, but he's just not the celebrity kind of actor.
Yeah.
He's into being in indie films, prestige films.
Yeah, very quiet kind of guy. There are indie and prestige actors. I would say Paul Mescal is one, but Paul Mescal is much more of a celebrity than even he's not as much of a celebrity as say Timothée Chalamet, but it's still
Maybe the talent level, is it quite the same as Paul Mescal?
And Paul Mescal is really, really good. So, yeah. Okay, I don't know much about Joe Alwyn, but,
I don't know if he's ever going to make it big like Paul Mescal. It's not happened yet. Maybe it will.
Yeah, but I also don't know if he wants to make it big like that.
Yeah, he is so quiet as an actor.
Is he going to be like Robert Pattinson, just being in these sort of lesser known
Robert
indie
Pattinson's
films?
huge, though.
Yeah, but
He was huge from Twilight, but now
Which he hates.
a lot of his recent films, people won't actually know them. They wouldn't have
The
seen them.
Lighthouse. Yeah, no one saw The Lighthouse, but he is the Batman.
He is.
Okay, a little bit of a side tangent, but I wanted to also talk about how we've been talking about how she's very, very good at this, right? Letting you know what she wants you to know, creating very, very powerful images just by she knows people will paparazzi her, so she will step out with Sophie Turner. She will be at a premiere with Beyonce. It's all very, very good at image craft. But obviously she wasn't as good at this in the past. So I remember in 2014, there used to be very, very regular photos of her stepping out of the gym in Oscar de la Renta day dresses. Completely made up to a T. Her hair is curled and rolled and she has stunning, flawless makeup and a little tiny cocktail dress and she's stepping out of the gym. It was very thirsty.
I'm wondering if this was 2016, actually, 1989.
Yeah, it would have been
because
because I'm thinking of the red
pap
lipstick.
walk. Exactly. She was
Okay.
making constant pap walks, as they say.
Yeah, I can't remember whether it's 2014 or 16, but it was definitely a while
Beautiful,
ago.
beautiful outfits that were impractical for doing
sidewalk
anything.
sachets.
Yeah.
Not
she would.
functional outfits, but beautiful
It would,
outfits.
and the caption would be Taylor Swift out and about in New York. And there was even I love these 2 fashion bloggers. They used to make fun of Taylor Swift's empty bags tour. Because she would just be carrying really expensive bags that obviously had nothing in them because they look extremely light and go about town.
And they'd be so tiny you can't fit anything in
Yeah,
them.
you'll be tiny, the empty bags tour. It was hilarious. But I think at the time, I struggle to say that period of time, that strategy wasn't smart. But it was definitely thirstier and it was definitely a lot more I don't know. I just don't feel it's as sophisticated as what she's doing now,
But she did actually do a pap walk recently, right after breaking up with Joe. And then she was seen out with the Haim girls, with Blake Lively, and they were all dressed up to the nines and
But yeah, as
walking
you said,
down the street.
after breaking up with Joe, she used to just do it randomly all the time.
Yes. But I think that's also in that time, that's what everyone did.
Reese Witherspoon loved that.
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon, she loved doing that. But I wouldn't say everyone did that, but she definitely...
It was her, it was when she was super into the drama. She was beefing with so many different
into the
people. That was the height of the Katy Perry stuff as well. She was just fighting with so many people and she had her posse with her everywhere.
Her
She
posse
had her
has since
posse.
kind of broken up.
It has. The only person that she's still actively in touch with is Selena Gomez.
And then there was that whole
Blake
thing
is still there, I guess.
Blake is still there.
Consider her. Well, the big person who's not there is Carly
Carly
Claus.
Claus. Yeah, she did marry a.
I think she's still
Kushner.
friends with everyone else, but not the same. No one is on social media the way they were.
It's not a posse anymore. And I think it's because she got so much flack for it. And like, you look at that versus what happened before Reputation, the way she just disappeared. And like, her social media was wiped. And like, I know that that's something like we were going to talk about. Just the way where she got super savvy with it, I think was because that was also the height of the backlash. That's when she was
Is that the snake incident?
Yeah, but like this was a little before. So like between Red and 1989 was when a lot of people loved talking about her love life so much. When they're like, this is the person she's dated. She's been in a relationship with this person for like...
she's trash talking him in this song. Or
and it's like, oh, that's the only thing that she ever talks about. And
she only knows how to write songs about her boyfriend.
And it's like, oh, let's rank like Taylor Swift's last 13 boyfriends from like the most recent to the first one she dated or whatever. And that's when she started questioning like why...
Was this also the John Mayer era?
No, that was before. That was Speak Now.
Okay.
Yeah. But like there was so much media hatred towards her where I think that was also the height of people really actively turning the public against her.
I think that was the height of it being uncool to like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and it was just, and then she wrote like Blank Space, right? Which is such a clapback at the media. But then everyone was like, see, this is exactly what she does. I'm like, do you not understand satire?
But Blank Space was great.
It's
I remember
great.
I remember Blank Space was when I started thinking, oh, this girl is interesting. Like, because she was getting so much hate, right? And then she wrote Blank Space. I was like, she actually really knows what's going on and she knows that people are looking at her this way. But also, I think, I have a lot more empathy now that I'm a bit older. I think when I was younger, I also... You know, when women are younger, we have a lot of self-hatred towards us and ourselves and other women. But when you're older, you look back, you're like, actually, she started very young in this industry and she was dating because she dates. Like, that's what people
date.
Because people date. And she clearly had a lot of mistakes. And I think as an angsty teen girl, you always want to write about your feelings and who did you wrong. And like, from a distance, you look back, it's like, actually what she did was fairly understandable. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that she did that I think you can say like, oh, it's very white or it's not very inclusive or like stuff like that. Obviously, those, I think criticisms still stand. But like, when you look back and you're like, oh, she was actually under a lot of pressure for a woman so young. It was like Britney, like Jessica Simpson. It's like one of those, the backlash against the really, really popular female pop stars, they always come. And I think that was the period it came for her. Yeah, so what do you think were the turning points in her, like, really getting a lot better at this and becoming, I think, owning this sort of like, overt scrutiny and attention and using it for herself?
Definitely, it was that day in Twitterverse when Kim dropped the video clip or audio clip of. Now we know it's a doctored. Right? Now we know it's a doctored audio clip to make it seem like Taylor actually gave Kanye permission to mention him in a song. Blah, 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 and the infamous snake emoji, which everyone on Twitter started posting snake emojis.
I remember this.
It's actually...
You have to live.
It's actually incredible that ever happened. An incredible day in pop culture, social media
history.
You
had to be in the trenches.
You had to be there. And can you imagine like one day like going on Twitter and suddenly everyone is calling you a snake and it's over a doctored clip and you know that, but no one's gonna believe you because they are so against you already. So I think at that point she was just like, okay.
And also, I do want to point this out, Kim K is not somebody you want to mess with. She also is a master at being a celebrity, a very different type of celebrity, but she's very, very good at what she does.
I mean, it was very masterful what Kim did because for 2 years, I think for years, everyone just assumed that Taylor was in the wrong, and it only was like much later that we realized that Taylor was not what she was made out to be, but actually that didn't make any waves.
And also like the whole like it was the whole like the tide turning against Kanye as he started stopped taking his meds, obviously, and started really descending to chaos.
So I think Taylor in her documentary Miss Americana, she talks about how she tried to be the good girl, try to do everything right, and that wasn't enough. And I guess that's when the snake incident was when she realized, I'm just going to do whatever and be me. And, whoever is going to stick with me is going to stick with me. And that next album, Reputation, she took that on her first stadium tour and people showed up. You know,
But Reputation was a hit. Reputation was major.
it did well actually.
It did well, but it
well.
was also the first of her albums up to that point, I think,
that did not get
nominated for a Grammy.
Album of the year.
Yeah,
album
for
of the year.
album of the year.
I think it got nominated for like in the pop album of the year.
because
That album, I think that was the one she really was like,
It did well, but it was not in the sort of the pop culture convo the way 1989 was, or in the way that Folklore became,
Yeah.
or in the way that Fearless was. So it did well, but in a way quiet way. And I think even till today, it's a bit underrated as an album.
but it is one of those things that people really think of when they think of like somebody stepping out and being like, I am done. Like that's kind of like, I am done with you talking about me this way. Like I am gonna fight back. I think that is kind of like I'm watching a Thai BL. They're all laughing because I have been talking about this Thai BL for
Only
weeks.
friends.
Jen
Weeks.
gives me weekly updates and I live
Yes.
for them.
Yeah, tomorrow is a new episode. So Charmaine, you shall get an update on after Monday meeting. Yes. Yes. So I watched this Thai BL and like the creator is a big Swiftie. And the way that she's so like Taylor is in the cultural conversation is like the creator sends a tweet of like this character who was betrayed by his boyfriend and then sort of like fought back. And he like sends a tweet with this character's picture and just went like XX in his Reputation era. And everyone went, wow, like everybody loves it. Like she's so in the conversation, I think, especially with Reputation, it's just like a symbol, almost like a very clear-cut point in her music life in which you can see like, oh, this is the point she stopped. She like didn't want to, I think, play into the ideas that people have of her, or rather try to leverage like the things that have been said about her and turn it into her own sort of power. So I really did enjoy that. I also feel that Scooter Braun made her grow up a lot because that was one of those things you're like, you trust someone, you think somebody is there
Looking out for you.
yeah, looking out for you, and then they're not.
You're on your own, kid. Yeah, but I mean, I think that if you watch Miss Americana, it opens with her like getting the call that Reputation was not nominated for Album of the Year, and like she talks about how that was an album she needed to do because she needed to vent so much because there was so much pent up that she felt like she couldn't really be a person and that she like people were criticizing her so much. She was like, well, if everyone hates me, why not just let them? And that's like where all the snake stuff came out, and that's where she like
Look what you made me do.
yeah,
you
and
know.
she went with like the super bleach blonde and like the dark colors and like
It's a dark era.
yeah.
It's a revenge era.
But that's also the time that she met Joe. And he really stuck with her through a lot of things that people didn't see.
And he was in the Miss Americana documentary.
He was.
briefly in a very
And so,
sweet
like, I think that's one of those things where there are great ways to rebel in the public eye, and Reputation is one of them. And then there's other ways that you rebel in the public eye, and you see a lot of celebrities go in that direction instead. Taylor made it a very calculated, like, career choice. She knew it was going to be a risk, but critics praised the album for her ability to do something that was so wildly different because everyone was expecting her next album to be like 1989. And then she did something totally different. And then after that, she went back to her roots with Lover.
Yeah, so in the Reputation for doing Look What You Made Me Do, she comes out, there's a big, huge snake, a set piece of a snake behind her. And at that point, I think I would say I was a big fan of 1989, but I would have called myself a Swiftie. And I was like, wow, I admire that. The fact that she could own it and just be like, yeah, I'm a snake. Okay, I'm a snake. Like, I'm gonna like just reclaim it for myself. And actually, if you listen to the album, it's actually not so much a revenge album. It's actually one of her most romantic albums that she's ever written. Lover might be called Lover, but actually, Reputation is more Lover vibes than Lover.
It is.
Lover has some songs that you're like, oh.
It's very anxious. It's a very
anxious. Cruel Summer is a very anxious song, right? Like, I mean, Lover is a very sweet song, but there are a lot of songs on that album that's not that vibe.
Yeah.
So-
But I think it's also one of the albums where, even though it's very anxious, it was the first album where I thought she was truly happy.
I think it felt like she was stable, at the very least, in a place where she wasn't looking for too much change.
It also has one of the most heartbreaking songs she has
Cornelia
ever written.
Street?
No, Soon You Get Better.
Oh, yes, about her mother.
Oh, I cannot listen to that song.
I think Folklore is also quite a heartbreaking album. But okay, we can talk about that later. But as we were talking about the whole snakes, that piece and everything, that's what I wanted to, link to another point, which is like how petty she is. No, really, like the way the snake thing is quite petty, like in the sense that petty might not be the right word, but it's very It's very like
Self-aware?
yeah, very, very self-aware. And I think that really ties into some of the things that I feel about her, which is all too well 10-minute version. Because yeah, she's re-recording her masters to get the rights of it, right? Let's just go into this whole like music copyright debate. But that's basically what she's doing. She's re-recording. She didn't have to release the all too well 10-minute version. At that point of release of the 10-minute version, she was 10 years past her relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal. But I feel like she just doesn't care if you think that she's petty or that all she does is write about boys. Like, I think at that point she was like, look, I don't care. And I still have the 10-minute version.
Yeah.
So I'm going to release it and it's your thing. Like, if you hate it, if it affects your life, you shouldn't have dated me and dumped me really badly 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think she thinks about Jake Gyllenhaal anymore. I think the 10-minute version was because she wanted people to listen to the re-recording. It was an incentive for people.
Yeah, I think that.
And also because when she first did Red, she wanted the 10-minute version. And they told her no.
She talked about it a lot. She talked about it a lot. Yeah.
They were like, no one's going to listen to a 10-minute song, which is the same thing that they told Queen about Bohemian Rhapsody. No one's going to listen to a 6-minute song, and everyone did.
Okay. So
10 minutes is a bit long.
It is. But it's a great song.
I love the 10-minute version. It's my favorite, okay?
It's a great song.
Yeah, it's a great song. And everybody loves All Too Well. Like, when it came out, right? Even the short version, it was beloved by fans. But I love, like, the pettiness in the sense that, like, yeah, I don't think she's thinking specifically about, like, Jake Gyllenhaal or anything. But I think she's at the point in which she's like, it doesn't matter what you think of me. Like, I'm just going to do what I do. I think it's a stretch to say she doesn't care about public opinion generally. I think she does. But she's going to do what she does. And I think she's very aware of the response that she's going to get. And if that response that she anticipates is something that she feels like she can live with, she'll do it. You get what I mean? Like, even if she knows the response will be mixed or sometimes people will be very, very, angry or criticize her or whatever, I think in her head, she just knows what the response is going to be because she has been through so much.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, like, if this is something I feel like I can live with, I'm going to do it. I think that's the vibe that I'm getting. But also, like, yeah, the pettiness and how people really love the pettiness. It's a thing. People love it.
It's fun.
It's really fun. Like, come on. You cannot convince me that all the lyrics in the 10-minute version was written 10 years ago. You cannot convince me of that.
I mean, okay, I still would like to believe that it was because she has that segment where she was on Jimmy Fallon and she talks about how the song came to be. And she was having a really bad day. She sat down
and she wrote it.
Yeah, and she like sang the whole thing. And then after that, her mom went up to the tour manager and was like, did you happen to record that? And he's like, yes, here you go. And she didn't tell Taylor she had the whole thing in the beginning. And only afterwards, her mom was like, by the way, we have the recording.
The stuff about his lovers staying the same age, though?
Oh, it's not wrong.
That feels new. And everyone went to Google Jake Gyllenhaal's girlfriend's age after that, and she's young. She is about 20 years younger than Jake Gyllenhaal. So I'm just saying that feels very recent. It's my vibe.
It probably was updated. I don't know like how much of it was.
Yeah, so she's 27.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they must have they've been dating for a while, I think. So she must have been 23.
Yeah.
Early 20s.
This is unlike Leonardo DiCaprio, who breaks up with all of his girlfriends once they hit a certain age.
25. That's the age. You can track. And Leonardo DiCaprio does have a little bit of a Taylor Swift link because he did date Blake Lively, didn't he?
Gigi Hadid?
He did? No.
Someone.
Okay, was it Gigi Hadid?
He recently was
Bella
linked
Hadid?
to. He was recently linked to Gigi. I don't remember Blake. Maybe that was like so long ago.
She's so out of his
No,
league.
because when he dated Blake Lively, she was 25 years old. So it was a very short-lived.
very long.
It was a very short-lived relationship.
Oh, you're right. In 2011.
Yes,
dang.
very, very brief.
I did not remember
because
that.
I believe Blake was already 25, so she was like, time's ticking. It's the clock's ticking,
Yeah.
So he had to break up with her. He had to. It's his brand.
But then it's fine because she met Ryan Reynolds. And
Because she met
is
Ryan
great.
Reynolds, and it's fine. And Leonardo DiCaprio is still single and still dating 25-year-olds.
And sad,
And below.
yeah.
25 and below. Very
It's so
specifically
weird.
below. Yeah, I mean, he broke up with Camilla Morone the moment she turned, not the moment, but like 2 months after she turned 25.
It was, yeah.
It was hilarious. Okay, we are again going off tangent. But yes, let's talk about how, I think we've sort of touched on this a little bit already, but I don't think Taylor is given enough credit for being very, very good at her job, at being a celebrity specifically, and also being a musician. So like one of the things that I really admire about her is her re-recording her masters, right? Yeah. Because I don't think that was something that people were thinking about that could be an option, and she really just made it an option.
And now a lot of other people are starting to re-record things because of Taylor.
I think other people have tried. I believe Prince tried, but it just never got any traction. But Taylor has done it so successfully.
And she knows the way to leverage her fan base, right?
Like it was so public.
Everyone hates Scooter Braun now.
Yeah.
And it was very public. And she was like, I'm doing this because he's doing this to me. And I need you all to listen to my version. And my version will be special. My version will have new things like the 10-minute version. Like, you know, whatever like secret tracks or whatnot that
From
she
the
wants
vault,
to. Yeah, that she wants to put in. So like she's really very smart at this. I think like I don't like it takes a business brain, you know, to think up things like this. And I think she's very good at the business of being a musician, being a celebrity, and being famous, which is a job, right? Like being famous and dealing with fame. And another thing that I really think was super smart was distributing US independently. The film.
Yes. But also that was a giant slap to all the major studios because it happened during the writers' strike. And Taylor came
writers
in.
and actors strike.
Yeah. And Taylor came in and she was like, you guys don't want to do this thing correctly. I will do it by myself and I will pay everyone what they deserve. And like, it's also a big thing where I think because of eras, there's been a lot of conversation about the people who work for her, like on tours. People are saying like,
huge bonuses.
Yeah, she gives huge bonuses, but she also covers their insurance, and that's not a thing that commonly happens. And she was appalled when someone was like, oh yeah, but they don't get insurance. She's like, my people do.
Like, I think it looks very good for her that she is a very generous boss. And being a generous boss is a very easy thing to be for her because she's so rich.
That's true.
She's so rich. Like the US tour is slated to earn at least $1 billion. Like, so she's so rich and she can do this. And like the AMPTP in particular, you know, I've talked about this before on my writer's strike episode. They look so bad because they have so much money and they're just like, we're not going to give it to any of you. Like, you're being greedy. Like, this is too much to ask. And in this current state of like inflation and cost of living crisis and stuff like that, that comes off really, really badly. And for Taylor, she's still $1 billion. She's still so rich. Like, she can give this part away and get so much public goodwill for herself that in the long term, this is a very, very good strategy for her, even if she has to spend more right now, right? And I genuinely think that she does want to spend more on her staff, like, because she wants them to be loyal to her and say good things about her and do good PR for her. Like, this is all a good move for her. But specifically, I think distributing Eras independently and coming to her own deal with the cinemas is so smart, especially at this time when we're seeing what streaming platforms could do to work. They can take it down randomly if they decide they don't want it anymore. They can, you know, like they can not pay you residuals. Like, they're very not transparent about the viewing numbers and stuff like that. And I don't know whether that reflects her experience working with Netflix for Miss Americana.
It could, but she has also worked with Disney for the Long Pond Studios.
Yeah, so
which everyone forgets about.
And to me, it just feels like it's this whole thing of her like re-recording her masters and showing people that this is an option. Is she showing people you can distribute your film independently? This is an option when you are as powerful as me, or when you have the savviness to do so. You can come to your own deal with the studios, or not the studios. I mean the cinemas. Yeah, you can do that. You don't need a studio. You can just have your own team. And I think Beyonce is probably looking at that. And being like, I can do that for myself for Renaissance. Yeah. Like, why not? You know. So what do you think, Yamini?
Yes, I agree, and it's basically she's also extending the Eras tour hype, which you know, letting people have that experience even if they couldn't go to the tour, and even if they did go to the tour. An interesting thing I told Charmaine the other day: our tickets, we're all going.
We're all going on November 4th. Yes.
They cost $19.89 each, even in Singapore. I knew this was happening in the US, and it's happening here, and I was like, she is a marketing genius because, like, there's merchandise, there are cups, there's posters, there's popcorn boxes. And she's basically just, like, inculcating all this goodwill among everyone because now people get to experience her all around the world, even if she's not traveling there. The cinemas are getting footfall in, even if, you know, they don't have movies to show. People are coming out to watch things that aren't Marvel movies or Star Wars movies. And she basically cut her own deal and told the Screen Actors Guild, look, how can we make sure And the writers go, how can you make sure this is like all above board? And she's like, yeah, there's a way to do it. And yeah, and what you mentioned about like paying her staff, like the truck driver is getting $100,000. I mean, that comes up to like several $million worth of bonuses. And, you know, her stylist, he's been with her since like Fearless days. These people have been
there's
with her.
obviously some level of self-benefit there as well, in the sense that, like, you don't want your stylist to turn on you. Like, you know.
No, but like she's basically like inculcated all this loyalty. I mean, that's also partly why that Katy Perry thing blew up, because those dancers left to halfway to go join Katy Perry on their tour, and that's what pissed her off more than like anything else. So I think like she likes being a celebrity, but she also knows the value of spending money on people and investing in people. And her parents are both like savvy business people. And she has that over a lot of famous celebrities. She has a stable family base behind her, supporting her. And why she's probably not really gotten into like substance abuse and kind of some of the more.
And why she hasn't gotten to...
things. I mean, maybe she's
randomly marrying a lot of men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Britney. I mean, her family was really just kind of using her.
Tough life,
You know, whereas like...
Even like Ari, I would say she married so young.
I mean, basically, yeah, it seems like her family is too scared or her friends are too scared to say anything because she bankrolls them, you know? And it's like, I'm pretty sure Taylor Swift's parents were like not happy with Maddie Healy, but they let her, because she's an adult, so they let her do whatever she wants. So yeah, I think she's really like a business genius, and I'm really curious to see what her feature film is going to be, just because I'm like, what is she going to do? Because like, you know, she's always coming up with new things and kind of changing the paradigm.
And what else is she going to do next, right? Like, that's so interesting, because you want to know how pop stars evolve over the years and how they can grow. And I think right now, Taylor is showing us a very good growth arc. Like, you may not like her, you know, but you can't deny that this is like a meteoric rise and fall and rise again, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's really quite amazing.
I mean, she is setting records and then breaking them herself, which is what she did with Midnights.
Okay, I really think we can talk about Taylor for like another 2 hours if we wanted to, but we got to come to an end. So let's do like a little fun thing. Let's do like our little Taylor Swift awards. So, okay, first, favorite Taylor Swift boyfriend, not counting Travis Kelce because he's the current one, and, you know, I feel like that gives him too much leverage. So, favorite Taylor's boyfriend in the past?
Okay, I have always said Tom Hiddleston, but I think that's just because I would like Tom Hiddleston. Realistically, Taylor Lautner.
Right? Taylor Lautner is my pick. Such a low profile, just chill dude.
Also, his wife is hilarious.
His wife also married. His wife is also named Taylor. Yeah. And they all like three of them appeared together in like a little video or something.
It's so
hilarious.
cute. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I love them.
I would have to say, like, I mean, in terms of being her ex, yeah, I would agree, because they've just embraced being Taylor's and in Taylor's orbit, and they love it. And
backflip on stage when he appeared.
It's so funny. It's so funny. And I love like how Taylor Lautner has basically really just like coasted off like his Twilight money and then just like do whatever he wants to do now. Like,
also, and he's the first one to get the apology song. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Back to December, he comes off really well. So he can sort of just like drive into the sunset with his Taylor
with his Taylor street cred. Yeah.
No, with his
own Taylor. His own Taylor. Yes. He's his personal Taylor. There's also like, personally, I think Taylor Lautner is my fave, but I would say Harry Styles is also one of my, like, I think that was a hot pairing. You know, that was a hot that's a very classic pairing. You get like with the pop star and the boy band turned rock star guy. And I think Harry also has really made like a career for himself that's very fulfilling and, you know, interesting, you know, and he also proves that he doesn't mind dating older women, and I like that about him.
All of them have a thing for older women. I will say One Direction has just like a...
in general.
Before I became a Swiftie, the Taylor-Harry pairing really caught my imagination, because I was like, wow, biggest boy band in the world, biggest female singer in the world. And they looked so good together.
They look so good. And I have to say, Style... If you want
such a good song.
If you want a breakup song, Style is a hot song to be written about you. I also love, it's one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs because it's so old school classic. And it's such a, you just want to listen to it while you're driving in the night. You get what I mean? Like, if I drove, I don't drive, but you know, if I did, I would want to turn that on, you know, in the night and listen to it. And it is a hot song. Like, in it, he comes off hot. You get what I mean? And the song is about him being hot. Like, the James Dean daydream look in your eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
white t-shirt and the slick back hair. Oh my god. Okay, he comes off really hot in that.
I would say I have a soft spot for Joe Alwyn just from all the songs she's written about their relationship together.
And from how they started.
Yeah, and when I listen to a lot of the songs, I'm like, my favorite song actually of hers is Call It What You Want. And it's just this really sweet song about, finding love even when the world is against you. So yeah, I have a soft spot for that. And I hope Taylor can at least look back and see it was a successful relationship, even if it ended.
Yeah. Most forgotten Taylor Swift boyfriend.
We were talking about this earlier.
Yes.
So I said Calvin Harris, and then she reminded me of someone else who I completely forgot
Calvin
about.
Harris, yes. Calvin Harris, Diamonds. Okay.
Connor Kennedy.
Who is that?
Yes, exactly. I will say Calvin Harris is the most forgotten famous ex.
Yes.
Connor Kennedy is not famous. He's not in the
Is
public
he
eye.
actually a Kennedy?
He is
is,
a Kennedy.
yeah.
But he's
She
not a public.
dated a Kennedy?
She did. But
Younger
one
than
of the reasons why I think it also didn't work out was because she made that whole fuss about like Jake dating her when she was really young, right? And then she dated Connor when he was 19. And she was like 22.
I mean, that's not that bad, 22 and 19. Jake Gyllenhaal was like 10 years older than her.
Yeah, but a lot of people were like, oh, you can't like say that he dated you when you were super young and then go and date like a teenager.
I think ultimately she just likes UK dudes.
Yeah, I
like,
mean, okay.
at that
It's,
time, yeah.
Firstly, it's the accent, but also British dudes are hotter than American dudes. And I say that as someone who lived in America.
But okay, that is the most forgotten Taylor boyfriend, given that I don't even know that he existed. And,
You forgot that he existed.
yes, a best song Taylor has written about a boy.
That
It
one's
can be
hard.
bad or good. I'm gonna say All Too Well just because I love that song.
I was going to say All Too Well or Back to December.
Oh, apology. Okay.
sad song.
It can be
Happy
bad. It can
song.
be an angry song. It can be a happy song. It can be a I hate you song or
There are so many. There are so many.
It's so hard to pick just
I mean,
one.
we could pick one. It would be hard
From
to pick
each
one from each
album.
album. That would be hard to
Yeah.
pick.
okay. Pick Tree.
Okay.
Pick Tree. Think about Tree. Okay, let's move on to another topic. But
yes.
think about it right now.
Okay.
Personally, the Taylor boyfriend you dislike the most. I know everyone's gonna pick Maddie Healy,
Yes.
so I'm not gonna pick Maddie Healy. But just if you had to pick one, who's
Maddie
not Maddie
Healy.
Healy.
Okay, sorry.
Just be like,
Okay, I think consensus is Maddie Healy, your second least favorite ex-boyfriend.
John Mayer. Easy. I hate John Mayer.
I'm also okay. I would agree with that. And Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake
I do
Gyllenhaal.
not like Jake Gyllenhaal. We had Yamini and I had a conversation about it last week, and I was like, "Look, the man is rumored to not shower, so like, I can't with this man. I can't."
Yes. Personally, I don't like John Mayer. Like John Mayer with Jessica Simpson was really bad, and
It's
I
weird.
think like he also wasn't good with Taylor. I think we are never ever getting back together about him.
No. That's about someone else. That's about her friend.
It's about Jake.
It was
Because she was talking to the rumor is she was talking to Adam Levine. Who was
About
like, "Hey,
it?
what's the deal with you and Jake Gyllenhaal?" And she's like, "Oh God, Jake Gyllenhaal, we are never getting back together." And it became a song. I believe
Yeah.
that's the rumor how that started. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, you listen to Dear John, and like, you can't not feel how painful that is. Like, don't you think 19's too young to be messed with? The girl in the dress cried the whole way home. Like,
Oh man.
how are
She
you
had
not?
a lot of things happened to her when she was 19.
She
Like,
did.
just a
But
lot
like
of things.
that song is
She has lived a full life.
She
so to
has.
say. Yeah. Okay, your favorite Taylor Swift songs.
okay.
Just pick one favorite Taylor Swift, and then we'll pick the one about a boy.
Okay. I think my all-time favorite Taylor Swift song. I'm gonna cheat. I'm immediately gonna cheat. It's a tie between The One and No Body No Crime.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I already mentioned my favorite song, so I guess I'll just mention another song that I really like, which is "Wildest Dreams."
Such a
That
good
was
song.
used. That was used in Bridgerton for the sex scene. Yes, the extended sex scene in Bridgerton season 1.
Yes, it's actually I could see why it's used in a sex scene because it's very central, it's
is
very
a very central
romantic
song.
and
Yeah.
wistful, a sort of what could have been, and this ended. But again, it just because it ended
you'll
doesn't mean it
remember
was a
me.
sad. Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a sad thing necessarily. It can be a kind of melancholy thing,
Yeah.
and I think that really just taps into the kind of bittersweetness we all carry with us.
Right now, my current favorite is "Cruel Summer," just because I really
good
love like it's such a catchy song to sing. to sing along to, and it's great because it's very hot right now. So like,
It's always hot, but this past few
always
weeks
hot.
has
This
been
past few weeks have been brutal.
exceptionally.
Yeah, so that's really okay. So what's
Speaking of Cruel Summer, I just funny during this recording, I got a notice from Apple Music saying the Cruelest Summer single by Taylor Swift is available now because she just released it as a proper single.
Oh, wow.
I think the audio.
I love how they're behind on that because Spotify released that yesterday. So get on it, Apple Music.
I think my phone was listening to our conversation.
It always is.
I think so. The iPhone's always eavesdropping. But it's so hard. Like the entire Folklore album.
Folklore is my
good.
favorite album.
I didn't mention my Exile.
Oh,
What an amazing
Exile
song.
is a very good song.
Yeah. I think Folklore was the album she really proved that she could do something, again, very, very different from pop and very, very different from country. Like, it's her indie vibes album, even though she's the furthest
It's not
celebrity from indie, but indie vibes.
It's definitely indie vibes because she works with like indie royalty.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks that the indie record that's much cooler than mine in that one song is basically the national.
We are never ever getting it
Yes,
together,
yes.
right? That
Which is
song.
about Jake Gyllenhaal. So everyone thinks probably, I think it is one of his favorite bands, The National. And that's who and she works with Aaron Dessner from The National
in Exile,
Folklore,
right?
Folklore and Evermore.
Okay.
So Exile features
Bon Iver.
Bon Iver, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I keep mixing
So many men.
Okay, I keep mixing up. But yeah, it's I really loved My Tears Ricochet.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mirror
Very
Ball?
good song.
Yeah. What about the one? Oh God, I suddenly can't.
Champagne
Betty.
Problems.
Sh-
Betty.
Betty, and then Champagne Problems.
Champagne
Yes. Oh, Champagne Problems.
Yeah. It's just
Champagne Problems and Driver's License is a fantastic mashup, by the way. You need to go listen to it.
Okay, wait. Now that we are on the topic of Olivia Rodrigo, do you think she has beef with Taylor?
No, I just think that she's really tired of being compared to Taylor all the time.
I think there's beef.
I think she's a bit disappointed with Taylor, and she and Conan have zipped their mouths completely about Taylor Swift.
We were talking about this. We were at a bar event, and we were talking about this after the bar event while we were both drunk.
Oh yes.
And Yamini was battling food poisoning.
Yeah, I think this is probably when I was like half conscious.
Yeah, and we were talking about how so Taylor has a writing credit on one of Olivia Rodrigo's songs when Sour came out. And then a while later, writing credits for Taylor was added to Deja Vu. And
Which is weird.
yeah, it was added to Deja Vu. And it's apparently because the bridge, and I've listened to this, it is credible. The bridge in Deja Vu and Cruel Summer sound the same.
Oh, I mean,
And
but Olivia Rodrigo does this a lot.
But so the rumor mill is that maybe Taylor called her and was like, I'm gonna sue you. If you
Yeah. Well, I mean,
May not have been Taylor, it may have been her team.
it was like,
but
I'm gonna sue
also,
you.
Like, Olivia Rodrigo has a history of doing this. So,
I'm just saying, I think there's a little bit of beef.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this happened as well with Paramore's and Olivia's Good For You. So now Good For You has credit to Paramore,
Yeah.
right? And I
I'm
think you
waiting to
mentioned
see
another
if Miley
song.
will go after her for, what's it, Vampire? Because the bridge sounds the exact same as the chorus of... I keep calling it Girls' Night Out, but that's not the actual title of the song. It's like the subtitle of the song. It's also from Miley's I'm in a rebel era.
Okay. So basically, the rumor mill is that Taylor called her and threatened to sue. And in The Grudge, which is the song that everybody says is about Taylor, which is Olivia Rodrigo's song, and she says, I have nightmares each week about that Friday in May. One phone call from you and my entire world was changed. And it could be about breakup, but it could also be Taylor calling in May when she released Sour, which is the month she released Sour in, and being like, I'm going to sue you. But yeah.
I mean, people also theorize that Vampire is about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
people
know,
also
I don't
Taylor.
know about that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I do think they really idolized her and probably that the shine was taken
Yeah.
off. And
Yeah.
they've stopped being vocal fans of her. And yes, I don't think she wants to be compared to Taylor, but I think some of that sort of idol worship sort of...
I mean, they say don't meet your heroes, but also I think if you're going to do something where you sample and transpose something from one of her songs and you do it again for another and you don't credit her the second time, I do think that's not a great move.
Okay, the thing is, I think it sounds alike, but I don't think it sounds alike to that point.
Yeah, there's so many songs. There
there's so
are
many songs
so many
that kinda
lawsuits
sound
about
alike,
this,
yeah,
right?
so-
Stairway to Heaven has how many lawsuits because...
So that's where we're ending off on possible beef between Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift. But honestly, I don't think Taylor Swift even registers Olivia. I don't. Olivia Rodrigo is so new and like
Yeah.
she's big but new, and I
Uh-huh.
don't think she like
She knows Olivia exists.
she knows
Yes,
Olivia
I
exists,
mean,
but I
she's
think it's like
acknowledged them as children.
but yeah, I don't think it's like important to her. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm glad Olivia Rodrigo exists. I think she's the new generation like breakup girl, angsty girl we need.
She's
And
the first generation of music artists who are actively following in Taylor Swift's footsteps because the formula has been proven to work and they know how to tweak it now.
I
So-
also okay. That feels like a slight against Alanis Morissette. I'm just gonna say
That's
Alanis
okay.
Morissette
Yeah,
did
that's
breakup
fair.
songs.
Yeah.
Very good in the
Yes,
90s.
that is
I
fair.
think Olivia is sort of the new generation's Alanis.
Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think so. But Alanis Morissette is like, oh, but you ought to know it's an angrier song. But
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, we have to end there. We talked about so many female music artists in the last like 10 minutes of this podcast. But yes, go and listen to Taylor Swift. And then we can all reconverge in March when she's here in
Yes.
Singapore when I'm not watching the concert. But yeah. Okay, thank you so
Anything
much.
could happen in the next few months. We could get
Anything
Janet
could
to get.
happen. I could carousel it. I don't know. Okay.
try.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you have any ideas on what I should talk about, please write into us at podcast@sph.com.sg or write into me at jenlee@sph.com.sg, or you can slide into my DMs at jenleewrites. But you can also find Charmaine. Charmaine, tell us your Instagram handle. She's a book talker.
Oh, yeah. If you want to follow me on Book Talk, this would be a great time if I actually remember what my Book Talk handle was. So, Yamini, you go first.
I'm on Instagram, just Yam Things, JUSTYAMTHINGS.
She drinks. No, you are literally covering
I do
nightlife
cover
and cocktails.
drinks and bars and all kinds of things. So yeah, if you like to drink, I guess drop me a DM.
I'm at Charmaine.reads on TikTok. CHARMAINE.READS.
Please follow her. Okay, we need more Singaporeans who read books. Okay. Yeah, because that day, that guy that you were talking to.
Oh my God. Okay, this is going
yeah,
to
this
be
is-
a separate thing.
this is
One
gonna
of
be a
these
separate
days,
thing.
Jen and I
Okay.
are going to go over dating stories.
Okay.
Next PopVultures.
Next PopVultures. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.